everyone, this is P4L. In today's P4L review, we'll be taking a look at a first figure from a new company called Cloud9, and it's their W-01 Quakeblast, their version of a G1 style master scale or masterpiece scale Shockwave. And this has been getting a lot of buzz for the last few months, just because, well, for a few reasons. One, because it's another take on a masterpiece Shockwave, which is great. But also kind of the drama around whether it is a knockoff or something like that, however you want to classify it, of the popular fans' toys, Quakewave. I mean, even the name is very similar. But go ahead and starting with packaging review, you can see this little cover here that opens up with some Velcro. You can see some line art here, or kind of a blueprint. A nice window box with this unique shape for Shockwave. I don't know if that's an homage to anything, but it looks very sarcophagus-like, in that it looks like it's kind of an Egyptian sarcophagus, and especially the way he's positioned. But it is a nice box. Up at the top, you get a little bit of Shockwave eye action going on the side here, just Cloud9 and this weird, what it is like a hand that is making this kind of thing. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Same thing on this side. The bottom really has another Shockwave eye, and on the back you get some more product images of him in robot and alt mode, as well as a characterization or bio over here. So the box art is done by Spike Art, which is a well-known art company, I guess, that does some Transformers box art. But yeah, that's really it for the exterior packaging. Let's go ahead and get this guy open and out of the tray. So once we have Quakeblast out of packaging, you get all these different accessories. So first off, let's go ahead and take a look at the instructions. Are just a one-sided fold-out, very large sheet. It does a decent job of informing you of how to transform this guy, and if you have a Quakewave, you're not going to really be surprised by much. There are a few instructions about some of the extra accessories, which we'll talk about in a bit, as well as telling you about the light up features. And it actually tells you that you're supposed to use AG13, which is an LR44 battery equivalent, but that is just not even right. It's comically not right how that is not the right battery. It's way too big, doesn't fit at all. You actually need the LR66, which is the 377 equivalent. I don't know what AG equivalent that is, but yeah, before you go out and buy batteries, make sure you're not following the instructions. It is LR44, which is a very common type. You should be able to find it at the local Dollar Tree or dollar store or whatever. As far as accessories that he comes packaged with, he gets the similar backpack to Quakewave, which you can leave on or not, and also doubles as the barrel, one of the barrels. And then we also have this barrel, which is a G1 toy homage. We're going to get into that in a second as well. He has a solid hand, which is a dark purple, which matches the purple here. I don't really get this because he never had a hand that was the exact same as his body in color. It should have been some kind of like lighter purple, or maybe even a gray. I just don't see the point of this one. It just doesn't evoke any version of Shockwave to me. He has two sets of cables, a shorter one and a longer one. The shorter one is meant for alt mode, so you have a shorter cable, and then he has a longer one for robot mode. These things are a pain in the butt. I know anybody who's actually been following along with some of these reviews of Quakeblast already know how much of a pain it is. I've actually tried very hard numerous times and with numerous techniques to try to get this in these holes very sturdily, but you can actually see that it's rubbed away because it's just too thick, and it just doesn't fit well. I mean, it will sit in there, but any kind of decent pressure and it will come out. So let's go ahead and try to start with this first, and your best bet is just to kind of grab and twist twist as much as possible. And you can come back here, and there's a port here, which actually goes all the way through. But yeah, it's not a very well thought out use of the hose. You may want to either trim the hose or maybe use a drill bit or a file of some sort to get the opening just a slightly bit larger, because otherwise, I mean, it just doesn't stay in, as you can see. My friend Paul5409, who did the Quakewave mod kit, which I reviewed before and actually use on my current Quakewave, is going to be offering a kit that will work with this as well, so you won't be frustrated like I am. The other thing about these hoses is that they are just like a rubbery material, so they don't have any kind of core structure like wire to keep it in any kind of position, which is kind of a bummer too, because then it's kind of left to the way it was molded. But this is probably the best you'll have it. The hose itself, though, the design is actually quite nice. It's much nicer than the new Quakewave hose, the segmented hose. This one actually has some other kind of molding details to it, which actually make it quite nice. So I like the hose. I wish it fit better. That's my real complaint about that. So let's go ahead and take a look at, I'm not going to show you how you do this. It's very simple though. You just open up these two screws, you'll pull that out, and then you'll pull the arm off a post, and then you'll put this one back on. But I'm not going to show that off because that seems kind of pointless to me. I don't think most people will actually be able to want to use that. So first up, let's look at the different barrels that he comes with. Let's start off with this one. This one is a G1 toy homage, and it is something that is quite unique to this figure in that Quakewave didn't have that. So bringing up the original G1 Shockwave accessory or barrel, you can see it's modeled very similarly in terms of the details. The inner plastic is not molded like this, is just straight. This one used to have actually raised details that fit into these cutouts, so a little bit of shortcutting there, but overall the design takes almost exact same cues. It takes some liberties here with adding the triangle, but otherwise very similar. And unlike the original G1 toy, you're going to make use of a very centralized barrel. So it's nice that they included that as an option. Here is the backpack version, and just to compare it with the Quakewave backpack on the right here, you can see that they're very similar in style, and the actual mechanism by which it works is the same, how it will flip inside out to form the alternate barrel. This barrel doesn't have any utility in robot mode. It doesn't peg in anywhere or anything like that. This one, just like Quakewave, you can go ahead and lift up this panel, and then using this set of, I guess, tabs or slots, could go right into the back here. And this is supposed to close up. It actually has some indentation on the underside that's supposed to hold it and have it sit in, but it doesn't actually work that well. You can see it protruding up, and mess with it all you want, it's not going to work that well. And really the reason for that is the way this, I think, hinge is designed, or the mechanism by which they designed it didn't actually give enough clearance for that, which is kind of a bummer. It's not a huge deal, but it is definitely noticeable. Alright, so let's go ahead and keep going with robot mode review. Let's scooch this down just a little bit. Overall, the look of this guy is really nice. The best thing about this is probably just the overall finish, in that it has a really nice dark purple metallic flake paint on the entirety of the robot mode, which is really nice. The purple is really rich, it's nice and dark, and I like how it's very glossy. The silver accents on the thighs and on the die-cast pieces and the foot and outer leg here are really quite nice. Also on the shoulders and ear pieces. The molded lines are very different than Quakewave, which we'll look at in a bit. But in terms of overall design, it does add a couple of different things. The biggest real difference besides the actual external molding is a little bit of extra engineering that they added down here on the back panel of the leg. And this actually thickens up the leg this way and then add some thickness to the leg to create a thicker handle, I guess, in pistol mode. They did re-engineer the knees, and it has a nice, although it's exposed, it's a really nice soft ratchet there, which is nice. We'll talk about that a bit more once we get into the actual articulation for this guy. Other things that you'll notice is that he's just overall beefier, which is, I guess, more of an homage to the G1 characterization. He did always have a pretty big chest. His shoulders are also big. Basically everything has been thickened up from his forearms. His shoulders in particular I think are a little too thick for my taste, but they're big and bulky. His legs got a little bit thickened up, and his feet are supposed to be a little bit more of that kind of curved leg that Shockwave was kind of known for. I don't think this is actually that great. I think these almost look too long. I think if it came out a little bit less, it'd be a lot nicer. It does have die cast, like I said, on the outer leg and toes and heels, just like the original Quakewave did. The eye is another thing that people seem to like or dislike. I don't really like this version of the head sculpt. I actually like the Quakewave version. And one thing that you'll notice is, let me get this a little bit brighter for you guys. One thing that you'll notice is that it's a lot more shallow, and I actually don't like that. And it does feature an LED eye. Really, that's about it for my robot mode review in terms of just overall look and design. Oh, and this barrel. The barrel actually is really long and thin, which again is not really that G1-like in my opinion. So the extra features, you can take a screw out here and put in the 2 batteries into the compartment here, and there's a button, recessed button, that has a yellow light. And I actually don't like the yellow light. I just don't remember him having a yellow light. He might, but I always remember them having like purple or pink LED blasts for the Decepticons. Same thing for the head. Instead of a switch that Quakewave had on the back of the head, it's actually on the top of the head. And I actually don't like that either, because when you turn it on, then you have a little recessed molded detail on the top of the head. And I actually don't like that. I think it would have been better to hide the button on the back of the head. And then last but not least, if you open up the chest, which you'll need to do for transformation, there's 2 screws in here. It's going to be kind of hard to see, but in the back here you have 2 screws. You open up that panel and then you add 2 more batteries. So you'll need 6 in total for this guy. And to push the light on, you have a little button there. So I guess we'll turn on all of them to see how much of a Christmas tree he looks like. And they're all yellow. I don't mind the yellow so much in the chest, but I do mind it in there. And it's a little more too orange for my taste for the eye. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into comparisons, just because I think that's what a lot of people are interested in. And the comparisons I'll be doing are with the reissue Quakewave, the toy version, FT03T. Because that's the color scheme that this is really going for in Quakeblast, and I want to do a more you know, accurate or relevant kind of comparison. So here is FT03T, and then the other one I'm going to bring out for comparison is my really ganky, really very broken G1 version. And they're all quite different in terms of color purple. I would say that the original G1 is a little bit more accurate to the Fans Toys color, and then this one is slightly different, but that's probably also because it's painted and has some metallic flake in it. As far as the overall accuracy, I don't think either of them are that accurate. They're definitely more modernizations of it. The leg does look a little bit better here. And then the feet, I actually think look more like Quakewave. So it's all kind of a mix and match between the three. So none of them is particularly all that accurate to one another, I guess, or not accurate to the G1 toy or cartoon. Coming around to the back. Oh, I guess I should... Where is that? Backpack. And you'll see with the Fans Toys one, when you plug this in, it actually plugs in really well and really flat. Yeah, so that's really it for the robot mode comparisons in terms of just overall like general feel for it. As far as some of the other details, the eyes are not that accurate. I always imagined him having Shockwave having a flat eye, so I actually replaced that with the kit, and this hose is also replaced as well. The translucent purple is quite different. This one's very purple, this one's a little bit more pink, and this one is even darker pink. So again, they're all doing their own separate takes on that. So I want to do a more detailed comparison between Quakewave and Quakeblast to really address the elephant in the room of whether this guy is a knockoff of Quakewave. And so I'm not going to go into the discussion of whether knockoffs are good or bad or indifferent, or whether you should or should not buy knockoffs. But I do want to talk about what I think my definition of knockoffs are, and whether that's the same as yours or not. It may or may not be, but so my definition really would be that this is definitely a knockoff of Quakewave. The way I would put it is that I would essentially call this a retool of Quakewave. And if it was a retool from the same company, then if it was from the same company, we'd call it a retool or remold. But since it's from different companies, I would say that this is definitely, in my definition of knockoff. And a lot of people will say, well, you know, the engineering is the same because Quakewave can only, Shockwave can only really be transformed one way. And I do not agree with that at all. Otherwise, we'd have the same exact transformation that we did here, which we don't, like in any way, shape, or form. The legs don't transform the same. The feet are different. The arms are even different. The head is quite different. I mean, I think it's a little naive to say that this is not taking the exact engineering and transformation from Quakewave. The only additional engineering that you really see here are the addition of these leg panels, and that's really it. Everything else is essentially the same exact engineering and design. And to take it a step further, there are even things that are too identical that don't even necessarily need to be. So look at the shoulders. The screw holes are in the exact same configuration. I don't know that you would actually need to have the exact same configuration, the screw holes there. And you might say, okay, that's one coincidence. But even if you take off some of the backpack and look into some of the areas that are kind of hidden, you get to see the same thing. You get to see the screw holes up here and the waist, even the fact that the waist collapses. This entire reticle kind of panel and flap, the way it works, the screw holes here, here, and here. even underneath there's another one. Oops, that popped off right below the crotch. At the upper part of the hips, right here, right here. I think even on the inside of the arm, basically is the same. You have one at the top left and one at the bottom right. Oh, there's an extra one here. Let's see. The inner thighs are slightly different in where the screw holes are positioned, so that's one area that's different. But yeah, there's so many different things, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but by and large, it would be very, very, I think, naive to not say that Quakeblast did not steal the transformation. Even the offset thigh transformation, where the thighs are offset to not centered, so you get the legs a little bit closer. I don't think that is, just a coincidence. That's not a transformation technique that's used all that often. And honestly, there could have been probably better ways to do that transformation. The chest, the way that it has two tabs on each, one tab on each side. The way that the trigger locks in to these two tabs in the crotch area here, which leaves two tab areas in the crotch, which again could have been done better. There are so many things that could have been done better or differently than that the fact that they didn't do that is just a clear kind of sign that they're stealing the engineering. And again, I obviously bought the figure because I think there are some merits to it. I actually do like this figure. I think it's a great figure, especially for the price. But bottom line, again, I can't really believe anyone that doesn't say that these guys didn't take any kind of cues or engineering from Quakewave. There's just too many similarities. So yeah, that's my take on that whole debate. Let's go ahead and get into let's go into articulation. So he does have a ball joint, like Quakewave. His arms are designed the same way, except it does have ratcheting. Mine actually comes with kind of a gimpy left arm that flops around. There's a lot of play between the ratchets, and I had to tighten this one up a lot to even get it to not flop down. He does have ratchets there, and then ratchets on the outer part of the arm. He does have a bicep swivel. He does have an elbow bend here and here, so double jointed elbows. His hands are actually quite nice. They feature a ball joint at where the finger or thumb meets the hand. This ball joint on the thumb is really, really loose, so I'm going to need to tighten that up. But that's the only loose one. The other ones are really actually quite nice. They do spread out really well. And then they also have a pinned additional joint for our second part of articulation. The thumb itself is also on a swivel, which is pinned next to the ball joint, and then it has a separate pin joint here as well. So really, really nice hands. They're really big. You just have to be careful when you transform it to make sure you don't pop any of the ball joints out, and it needs to be done in a specific way to get it into the arm. As for this cannon, people keep complaining about the bubbles that you see in the cannon in the molding process. Mine has two, one up here and one down there. I don't mind it all that much. I mean, you don't really see it unless you're looking very closely, and it's not a huge deal to me. He does have some hip skirts. Does have, if you extend the waist all the way, he does have a nice ratcheted waist joint. I find it's a little bit too easy to collapse it. Here, let's just get rid of this. A little bit too easy. Like, it keeps falling down with very little effort. The legs are on friction joints, going out that way, and ratchets going forward and back. This left one actually feels very scary. Like, I feel like I'm going to break it. It has a really cracking noise. And again, as with the shoulders, there's a lot of play there, which I don't like. It does have a thigh swivel, which feels softly ratcheted, which is kind of odd. And then he has a knee swivel, because why not? The one joint that I think is really great are the knees. They're very softly ratcheted and it has a lot of different detents, as Vangelis would put it. The molding is really nice. I know I talked about this before, but lots of extra molded details. That's something that it definitely has over Quakewave. On the legs, he does have an ankle tilt, but you actually have to untab the leg just a little bit to get it to actually work, because it actually tabs into the lower leg. You do have, I guess, a little bit of ankle tilt going forward, but there's too much going on here that actually restricts its own movement there. So not that well designed. The heels kind of go in and out. Same thing with the toe. And the toe is segmented in two places, so you do get that extra bit of articulation there. And I think that's it for overall articulation. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into transformation next. So transformation is exactly like Quakewaves with one exception, so we're going to speed through it just to the parts that are really important or different. So curl up the hands, open up the bottom panel, and you're going to either want to have the fist this way or fingers up. I think it's a little bit better with the fingers up. You just close that up. You're going to go ahead and raise the arms. Come to each side. Pull, get that in. You're going to want to pull forward. The head is on a sliding joint, which I believe is different from Quakewave. You're going to fold that in and then push back. You need to push back on this pan, the sliding joint, otherwise when you close it, the LED will activate. So you need to make sure to push that back and close it up, and that way you won't have that LED going on. Get the arms flipped up like so. They're going to tab together up at the top. This cannon is going to slide to the center on that sliding joint. Be very careful. This feels like it's going to break already, and I haven't done anything with it. It's just loose, and I don't know how it's attached in there, but it definitely is very fragile feeling. So for the legs, let's go ahead and flip up these panels real quick. Deal with the feet, fold into heels first, and then the toes. Then we'll deal with these panels here. You're going to untab it, and it's on a very weird T-shaped white piece, which again, I don't know why they actually didn't mold that in purple. Same thing with this piece here, but then again, Quakewave has its own. So the way you want to transform it is, once it's here, get it out, flip this kind of around, and then, I'm trying to show the best way. So this T section, you have a sliding joint there. You want to slide to the other side, and then tab that into the inner leg. So same thing on the other side. There we go. The legs, unsurprisingly, are like Quakewaves. You untab it here. You're going to want to pull this out quite a bit and then finish rotating this. And then you'll pull out the trigger, which also has this little tab piece, which actually has a trigger, which is an improvement. Same thing on the other side. Open it up. So don't open up all the way. You want to open it about 90 degrees. Flip this open and then complete opening it up. Then at the thighs, once you get this out, at the thighs, you're going to rotate at the upper thigh, not at the knee joint. 180 degrees. You're going to collapse the leg. The leg collapsing mechanism is actually quite good here. You want to collapse it as far as you can get it. Tab the two halves together. You can do it the other way as well if you want. I just find it easier to do it the collapsing first. And if you got it all right, you'll know that, oops, I just collapsed the waist. I was going to show that later, but I did it by accident here. You want to get it all the way like this. However, because of the, poor engineering here, you actually have to push the legs forward at the hips to actually get this to tab in. And that causes a lot of problems because then you're not sitting straight, so you get a gap here. and then flipping these panels down, you get a gap created. It should collapse. If they engineered it correctly, it should have collapsed a bit more. So you have a gap here. It's not great, but it's not bad either. You're going to untab the reticle and come back here. And again, this seems like an afterthought in the design change that they made with the knees. This engineering from the original Quakewave was supposed to sit flat, but because of the re-engineering of the legs, it doesn't do that. So now it sits at this weird, odd angle, which, I mean, again, it just seems like an afterthought. So yeah, that's basically it for the transformation here. The only difference in transformation is going to be whether you want to use the G1-esque version or the backpack. So we'll start with the backpack just because that's one that we're kind of familiar with. There is a little bit of difference here because it is larger and longer, and also it's tabbed together differently. So it's actually not just tabbed in together with straight tabs, it's actually kind of over and under. So you have an under tab here which has a ridge and an over tab here which has a ridge. So it's very hard to pull straight out. You're going to have to pull one way and the other to actually get it released. The other difference here is that it has a larger tab at the top of the barrel, or top of the cannon, that goes into a larger slot that's on this backpack. And then the other difference being is that they also have tiny tabs that go onto the sides of the arms, a la the original G1 toy. All these tabs and these over and under tabs make it actually quite difficult to get everything in place. I feel like they over-engineered it here. And I'm going to try to get everything. There we go. So I think they made too many tabs, like on here, on the sides, on the bottom, and this over and under here made it very difficult to get into, get this barrel transformed correctly. And then once you have that done, you can bring in the small cable and attempt futilely to get it into the backpack. Yeah, of course it didn't work. A backpack and the arm. And again, the reason they did that is just so you don't have a lot of extra cable length just hanging out. But I'm not even going to bother doing that because it's super frustrating. So before we go ahead and do some more comparisons, let's go ahead and get this off. So for this one, it only uses these tabs on the side, on the inside of the barrel, to tab in here. And you need to slide this into the center, otherwise you are going to be in trouble, because there's an actual central circular piece there, which is going to go in. And be very careful. I'm sure anyone who's watched this review probably watched Pyog's test shot review and saw him break it. So I'm very, very nervous about mine. There we go. And I actually like this look better just because it is more G1. And I just like this barrel. It just looks kind of cool, less blocky. Alright, so we're back doing a comparison of, oops, forgot to flip this up, of alt mode. So on the left here we have Quakewave, we have then in the middle our star, Quakeblast, and then, least of all, the guy who started it all, the G1 toy version. In terms of this mode, they're all pretty similar. The again, key differences here are really just going to be kind of the barrel, which right now I have the G1 barrel on Quakeblast here. There are some different shapes, so they're using a rectangular shape here for the most part, while these two are using more of a, I guess, hexagon shape, or no, octagon shape than they are here. As far as other comparisons, the trigger obviously is much different than either of these because Quakewave doesn't have one, and Quakeblast has a little tiny one here. The alt mode is very nice. I do like it. Some of my complaints will be I don't understand why they added this because the leg panels really don't serve much of a purpose in either mode. It's on the back and it's on the side here, which adds some extra width, but I don't know that it needed it. It seemed kind of superfluous. Also, the feet here are kind of left uncovered. The back doesn't bother me so much, but the top does kind of bother me because you can see it from way more angles. I also don't like the fact that, again, it doesn't seem very well engineered, and some of these design changes, they seem to have run into some problems that they're trying to cover up. So the fact that this leg doesn't really collapse all the way, leaving this to not really tab in all that well. And then you can see this gap here, which is not present on Quakewave because of the way it was designed. I mean, you have a very small gap here, but again, that's much different than this entire huge gap. I wouldn't even call the Quakewave one a gap. But yeah, this is a very blatant. Otherwise, I mean, besides that complaint, this one here, and kind of the weirdness here, I don't hate it. I just don't see the point of it. It's still very nice alt mode. I like the longer barrel. I think it makes it look way more G1, and it's very cool looking. And I appreciate the addition of the trigger. But that's really it. Not much to say here. Again, aside from the fact that this thing sucks. So, I don't know. If somebody has a better fix for how that can be applied, I'd love to hear it. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this guy transformed back into robot mode and finish off the review. So let's go ahead and be very, very careful taking this off. I really don't want to be a second Piog and damaging mine. And the thing is, they made this way too tight. There's no reason for it to be this tight on here in the first place. Oh my god, I thought I broke it. Alright. Once that's done and your heart starts beating again, go ahead and slide that over. Next what we'll do is deal with everything down here. Let's first untab this and just kind of close it all up. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to untab anything for that right now. Get this butt flap up and down. Then we can go ahead and extend the legs. Start separating them, or do it in whatever order you want, doesn't really matter. Flip the thighs around 180 degrees. Get the feet out. It does have a nice little tab here to help with the heels. I know that was kind of a bane for a lot of people, including myself, on Quakewave. Get this kind of folded up. There's a series of tabs that go in here. And one thing that I will mention is kind of like the incident with what's his name? Apollyon, X-Transbot's Apollyon. There are a lot of weird indentations in the plastic. So here, and let's see if I can show it off real quick here on the chest. Like there's just ridges here, a really apparent ridge there. And there are some other areas as well that have just these kind of indentations that are kind of hard to notice until you see it, and then you can't unsee it. People were calling it the nipples on Apollyon, but they're very, very apparent on Quakeblast as well, which is kind of a bummer. The plastic's not bad quality. I think it's just part of the molding process that they didn't really refine. And you know, X-Transbot actually improved that problem, or got rid of that problem in later releases, so I'm wondering if they will as well, if they noticed it. Go ahead and open the chest. Remember to slide out, rotate the head up, and then slide it back. Then we can go ahead and close the chest. Close that up. While we're up here, let's go ahead and open up the hand panel or arm panel and rotate out the fist, the right fist. Get down around and down. And extend the abdomen if you... Oh, I already did by accident. And there we go. We have Quakeblast back in robot mode. So my final thoughts on Quakeblast. So regardless of whether you agree with me or not on whether this guy is a knockoff or some just kind of borrowing heavily of another company's engineering, this guy is definitely a fantastic figure, especially for a new company. The actual build quality is quite high. I didn't talk about this earlier, but the weight difference between him and Quakewave is only about 2 ounces, so not a ton. I think Quakewave is about 1.3 and this guy was like 1.5 or something like that. So really nice materials, really nice paint, nice use of die cast, and even if they did borrow the transformation or steal the transformation, they did definitely add their own flair to this guy, with the overall look being the real selling point more than some of the other additions. But the addition of the LED, the leg panels, which I find to be a little useless, but hey, sure. But they definitely put their own spin on it, and I can actually appreciate that, because it did take more engineering and design than just a straight knockoff would be. So that's how I kind of justify it. If it was just a straight knockoff, I probably wouldn't have bought it, but this definitely does have some aesthetic appeal that it's going to reach to a lot of people. And so if it speaks to you, definitely I would recommend it. He's definitely worth picking up. Some of the little problems I have with some of the engineering and kind of like the overlooking of some of the things, like the legs tabbing in that prevent the ankle tilt, some of the clearance issues, the collapsing of the legs in alt mode, all those, and the backpack not pegging in, or just not sitting correctly into the backpack. They're all small things that you can definitely live with, and hopefully they're going to be fixed or refined on future releases, or they'll just get better at their future figures and those little refinements. So looking forward to more from Cloud9. For $85 shipped as a Dojo Disciple, definitely worth picking up, and the value here is definitely there. You're definitely getting a lot for your money, so I definitely recommend him if he speaks to you more than the design for Quakewave. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. If you have the time, please give it a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. That really does help a lot. And as always, if you want to keep up to date with all my news and reviews, go ahead and click the subscribe button, or follow me on Facebook at P4L Reviews. Alright, thanks a lot everyone, and have a good one.